Yes, it's visible.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so here, this one we are using in the MATLAB Simulink software. In the MATLAB Simulink software, we generally develop the program in the state machines, and that program is then converted into microcontroller using the Plex coder. So the Plex coder is a real-time simulation coder where it is converting the MATLAB Simulink code into the C code, and we used to dump into code microcontrollers such as Texas Instruments C2000 or ST Micro. So generally we have used Texas Instruments C2000 microcontrollers. So we directly dump the code into that C2000 microcontroller. So in this battery pack, the four important parameters is cell parameters, BMS system, and BMS electronic control unit and the state machine. So I'll just briefly go into one by one. So this is the with normal circuit for the cell estimation. In this one, if you double click here, it's a current source and you can choose the type of the battery that you wanted to use. So you can here select the predefined parameters, and you can see what are the power of the manufacturer and what is its part. So for example, if I choose the Panasonic, I have these many different kind of batteries that they are mentioning. So I can check, this is a predefined that is already there inside the MATLAB. So we can choose the type of the cell that we wanted to use. After that, you can, and all the parameters will be there in this one. So what is the dynamics, fading effect, calendar aging, variables, all these variables according to the manufacturer will define some values here. This is the cell voltage and cell current we could able to get from here. After that, the second is the BMS system, battery management system. In the battery management system, this is the battery management system. How it is happening. This is a battery model that we have designed. From this battery model, the information to the battery model is given by your electronic control unit. This is called BMS software. That is what actually where we are keeping our own program here. So here we can keep our own program. In this one especially, I hope you are able to see very small screen here. I can just maximize this. Yeah. So here, this is first of all balancing logic. So first of all, we'll come to know what is the minimum cell voltage. We are monitoring at the cell level. What is the maximum cell voltage? Accordingly, we will see that how much amount of current will go for each cell, because there are some possibilities that some cell may have less charge, some cell may have moderate charge, some cell may have more charge, and some cell will be. So this balancing has to be done at the cell level instead of the module level. If you try to do balancing at the cell level, then your system will be perfect. After that, we will estimate completely the state of charge estimation of the battery. That could be done by using some sort of algorithms. I may share with you this. So if you have MATLAB software with you, you may check this one. Coulomb counting method and extended Kalman filter method, the state of estimation. And then this is the state machine. This is the most important thing, that where we are actually playing everything information. So this is the one. Here, if you observe carefully, this is actually where we are giving our own inputs here. Here we have to give here how much amount of discharge current limit, charge current limit, cell voltages, pack voltage, cell temperature, and output of the charger, output of the inverter, peak current, and the request, and the maximum cell voltage. Based on these input parameters, we will design our own program here. It is something like yes or no kind of flow charts we have to make. So these kind of flow charts we are calling as a state charts. So there will be different state algorithms will be there. One is main state algorithm and fault monitoring and charge control and the inverter control. This is the charge control algorithm and this is the inverter control algorithm. So I'll just explain one, then you may go through at your convenience. So let me take this charge contactor state. Now we'll see. So all this information in majority will go through CAN protocol. Sometimes we may go through the PLC protocol also. Okay. So in the charge contactor state, so we have to first check whether the pre-charge fault is there or not, or any other fault is there or not. If these two are true, then only we'll go into the contactors of the charger. In the contactors of the charger, first we will pre-charge the circuit. After pre-charging the circuit, then we will open the main contactor and the information will be flowing here. So these are all, and now everything, even after closing that, if there is no fault, then only the information will go to open other request. So this is generally like how we do in a normal, kind of a sequence. That also I'll show you, that preventive hazard sequence, where you may not be able to check perfectly here. I'll show you in our slides again. So once we are checking all these fault conditions are satisfied, then we will check each and every voltage, like voltage of the cell, voltage of the pack, and if everything we check everything is perfectly all right, then we'll give a connection that okay, the charge circuit is yes. So it will take approximately 1 to 1.2 seconds to check all these parameters. Now you may also wonder, so the microcontrollers are so much fast, even then why it is taking 1 to 1.2 seconds? So yeah, the reason behind this is, though microcontroller are very fast, we are trying to measure the voltage of each and every cell. So whenever we are trying to measure the voltage of each and every cell, there is a voltage sensor. So this voltage sensor has its own delay. So sometimes it may give very less number of, because if I want more resolution whenever I'm going at cell level, for example, if I go with a 16-bit resolution of analog to digital converter, I'll be getting only 860 samples per second. At least I have to take 4 to 6 samples to estimate the voltage of the particular cell. So that 4 to 6 samples a second time is getting almost elapsed. So that is reason why it is taking 1 second to 1.2 seconds. Sometimes even they have somebody has even achieved 900 milliseconds also. But those are some extreme cases where they are telling for fast charging we are achieving this much amount of time. So this is one important where, if the vehicle wanted to start immediately, uh, you have to wait at least 1 to 3 seconds. That is the minimum time that you have to wait when you plug in your key to the start of the vehicle, because the vehicle has to check all the connections carefully here. So this is the simplest algorithm that you may just go through it. I'll share this complete program with you. You can just open your, I hope you have MATLAB with you, all of you. If not, I may float one license. If you want, you can use that also.
No, we have left.
Yeah, then it's fantastic. There is no issue. So this is how we go ahead. And so this is simplest algorithm. Just I wanted to show you because I told you another day. Now the functionality of the BMS. Any questions are there till now? Is it fine?
Professor, one question was when you talked about the temperature and its influence on this battery, you only mentioned about the ambient temperature, right? Or is it also something? Is it like an external temperature, or is it like exactly on the temperature on the battery pack or something?
Yeah, so I mentioned about, example wise, I have taken the ambient temperature, but in fact, it is applicable to the battery pack, its own temperature also, because it
Okay.
entirely affects the temperature.
Okay, and is it correct to assume that let's say in cold countries or something like that, then the EV performances will be better? That means like the discharge capacity will be low and you will be having long life batteries.
I mean, it depends upon the type of the battery that you are using. Say, for example, if you use same lithium ion batteries in the cold countries also, as I told you, it may not work at some minus degree centigrade. It will be automatically freeze. That chemical reaction will not take place. Yes, there is certain limit. I think minus 5 degrees or some there. Till that time, the battery performance will be good. And if you go beyond -5, like -6, -7, and then the performance will again get effects. So we require both the heating and cooling of the battery, or we can say that we have to maintain the optimum temperature of the battery at all conditions for its optimum operation.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So it's entirely depend upon how are we going to optimally maintain the temperature of the battery. Yeah.
Professor, one more
So
question.
yeah,
This is
please.
regarding the measurement of cell voltage. So really, we are connecting through all the cells to measure the cell voltage because there are many cells are there.
Yes.
How it is connected through
Yeah.
bus bar or how is that?
Yeah. It's a very important. Even when we started our designing of battery packs, we also realized that for one cell, two cell, and three cell, it is fine to measure the voltage across each and every cell.
Right.
But if you see, there are something like 9,600 cells, 7,000 cells, and the amount of sensors that we have to be incorporated is extremely high. So for this, actually the industry what they have did is they have converted this the cell into the modules. So like
Correct.
what they are doing is for 8 cells are connected in series, and for these 8 cells they are keeping one module, and all this. So in that one, each cell voltage they are measuring, and after measuring that cells, they are keeping one PCB on the top of that, like as I have shown you here in our
Yes, yes.
other, yeah, here something like this. Each cell voltage they are measuring, and they are and here it is not there. Each cell voltage they are measuring, and they are putting a CAN bus here. So the
Mhm.
information of each cell is communicated to the master BMS from this slave BMS. These are all called as slave BMS. These are small packs. All this will be communicated to the master BMS, and the master BMS will decide how to charge each and every. It will give command again through CAN. So that is the reason why CAN protocol was very extremely useful, and they are doing each and every cell measurement they are doing in the battery pack. So
Clear.
I mean, like if you do all cells at a time, it will be really complex.
Yeah.
So they made into small pieces, and the CAN has only 2 wires. So it is extremely become easy that in to communicate that information.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so as just we are seeing as relevant to our the same question. For example, this is a battery pack. I'm just assuming in this battery pack our module. This is a cell wise. If I'm so this is in this BMS has been categorized in different categories. One of the important categories is the centralized BMS. In the centralized BMS, as we have seen, if the number of cells are less, like for example, if we have 48 cells or 96 cells, yes, it is possible that we can take measurement of each cell, that has SOC of each cell, voltage of each cell, temperature of each cell, and we can communicate to one particular microcontroller, and all this information will be processed, and then the from the main power command we can give the commands to all the cells. But what was happened is, if the because as the battery pack size is getting increased day by day, this centralized BMS option is no more valid. Okay, and before that, let us see what is the centralized and decentralized structure. So the battery packs or modules are categorized into centralized, decentralized, distributed, and hierarchical communication manner. So this is just introduced to reduce the complexity of wires, because if the battery pack has so many number of wires having voltage control, state of estimation, temperature, current, all this information, we are really not sure that which battery pack has got which type of which wire is for what. For this reason, they have tried to made into 4 different categories. The first category is centralized category, second is decentralized, third is distributed, and four is hierarchical. Now let us go one by one. In the centralized category, so each module will be communicated to the central controller. So this module has our module or maybe cell is having its either having BMS. If it is a cell, there is no BMS is involved here. If there is a module, there is a BMS involved. So the information from the each module will be going to the central controller, and the algorithm will be running in the central controller, and the information will be feeding back to the each and every unit. So in this one, the important drawback is if the central controller fails, your entire system is failed to communicate and the system will not be operated at all. So for this reason, what they did, they went for the decentralized controller. In the decentralized controller, each module or cell is it's having own battery pack and it is having own its current controls. So when we are implementing this kind of scheme, the important drawback is the module 1 doesn't know how much amount of current is taken by the module 2 or unit 2 or cell 2. So, and similarly other units. So there is a lack of communication that exists between the controller to controller. To overcome this, another kind of methodology that they proposed is distributed communication. In this distributed communication and control, they are trying to exchange the information between one control unit to other control unit. This has made system so much easy that the information will be shared easily among the controllers without any extra wires. Say for example, if I use CAN has 2 wires only, CAN high and CAN low, and the information is passing from the controller 1 to the CAN, controller to the CAN, controller 3 the CAN. So I need only 2 wires to run among all themselves. However, the important issue is every controller has its own BMS. So this BMS has to communicate this and this has to communicate to this. So this way little complexity is there, but widely they are using this kind of distributed communication where they can reduce the complexity to larger extent. And further, in order to, because if we use this kind of scheme, we have to employ a microcontroller on each and every item. For this reason, they have used a hierarchical controller. This hierarchical controller is having its local controller, communication between neighbor modules along with upper level computer. Whenever this upper level computer or like are called, I can say the very big master BMS, it fails, then automatically it will take the control of this control actions, and automatically even it fails, the system will still continue to run with a fault mode, like the master BMS is failed, immediately go to service, some sort of a with a warning message, it will try to shift it to own control mechanism. So either at present, either the system is going at C or D level, either a distributed and hierarchical systems. Now in practical, if we see how it is getting really applied, so this is how this is happening. In the central BMS or centralized structure, each module or each cell information is going to the central, and then from the central there is a central controller which will all the algorithm will execute, and then it will decide how much amount of charge and how much amount of discharge has to go. So since again this was failed, this was came into existence of a battery BMS slave modules. In this slave module, these modules will be there for a pack of cells, and a pack of cells and pack of cells, and these are getting communicated from with each other. So, and that has been further, this is communication between neighboring communication, and this neighboring communication is further extended to the neighboring communication with centralized communication. So the information will be, each BMS will broadcast information to its neighbors, and that information will also go to controller. If the controller even fails, this internal BMS will take care about the communication, will try to manage the system. This is something called as hierarchical communication system. Any questions?
So, which is the most preferred BMS system? The one you mentioned in the previous slides.
Yeah, so most preferred BMS is the hierarchical one, where you will be having your upper level controller are called master controller, and there will be so many slave controllers, and the communication do exist between the slave controllers. If the master BMS is fails, and the slave controllers will communicate among themselves to share the current equally.
But if I mean, as you said, if it fails, for example, the upper level controller fails, then there will be something called as false indicative, that malfunctioning indicating a lamp or mill. It will go, it will blow, right? So it will
Yes.
activate, and then we can just move the vehicle to some distance. But is it not essential that it should also communicate between C1 and C2 during this process? Or it is not required?
No, it is
Because I was
essential.
trying to compare with C.
It is
At least you will
essential.
still be able to have communicate.
Yeah, so I have not shown a link, but it will essentially communicate both of them.
Okay.
C1, C2 will be communicated. C2, C3 will be communicated.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even though the upper level fails.
Even the upper level fails.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
But that is limited again. I know the computational power in the C1, C2 will be much less than the compared to the upper level controller. So this is called master, and these are the slave BMSs that I'll show you. I mean, this is the preferred one. D1 is the preferred. That we will explain in detail now again. Yeah. So I think it is not gone. So are you able to see the master BMS architecture?
Yep.
Okay, fine. So this is the upper level control, or called as a master BMS architecture. So in this master BMS architecture, so first of all we'll go, this master BMS architecture will be powered by the auxiliary battery. So this master BMS architecture, the architecture that is there, I mean the main controller that is controlling complete BMS is supplied from the auxiliary battery. This is most important. When you give auxiliary supply, then only this master BMS architecture will be switch on. Now once the auxiliary supply is fine, it indicates that all your sensors will be powered through this auxiliary supply. Now the first thing is, this master BMS will take the information from all slave BMS through isolated serial communication channel. So it may be CAN bus or SCI, serial or SPI, peripheral interfaces. Through some protocol, the information will be taken from the slave BMS, and all other parameters such as another sensors, voltages, current, all those information will be come to this vehicle control unit, and all this vehicle control unit will be taken through this CAN transceiver. So it can transmit the data as well as it can receive the data. So till this point it is fine. Now after taking the information from this CAN and the taking all the BMS information, and then we'll take the information from the temperature like coolant temperature and all other whatsoever the parameter that is there, all information, as well as from the power distribution unit also we'll take the information, total pack voltage, total pack current, everything is again all are isolated signals. If you remember, we have to use in the battery management system, everything should be isolated sensors we have to use. Otherwise, there will be a common grounding. That common grounding will affect the low voltage or high voltage system. So that is reason why the isolation is required. Generally, we get the isolation by using a small transformer in general, or in the isolation in the IC itself, they'll give effect of Hall effect or isolation barrier to make the signals, power signals and the control signals to be completely isolated. And the signals whatever we are getting here, and all the signals will be conditioned using the signal conditioning circuit, and the input will be given to the analog to digital converter. Reason being, the microcontroller cannot take the analog information. There should be a to D converter. So it is not necessary that we should go with only 12-bit. If you want to have more and more further finer measurements, you can go with 16 bits information. Now, once all this information is done, it will also check that whether for the safety purposes also, like whether that high voltage interlock loop circuit, that is pre-charging circuit, whatever high voltage circuits are there, those circuits are checked properly or not. When these all are checked, then it will go to the next structure called a BMS. I mean slave BMS. In the slave BMS, each battery pack. So in each one battery, there may be the information you can observe here. This is the battery. The voltage across the information, from this voltage they can, and there will be a temperature measurement of each battery also. Voltage and temperature, they can measure the SOC, SOH, SOP, all those information they can estimate from this battery pack. So all this one will be there in the slave BMS architecture. So then they'll take the cell temperature, they'll take the balancing mechanism, what type of balancing mechanism it is there. The information from the master BMS is coming here, and different slaves, the connection between one slave to other slaves, all are getting connected, one among them information, and all information will be slaved. And this, this is again a microcontroller. From this, the information will go how much amount of current that has to be given. This information will be carried to the master BMS. Then master BMS will decide, okay, fine, this much amount of current has to be given to this particular battery pack. Like this, each and every battery pack are precisely controlled and precisely monitored. Now, even if any one of the parameter is not taken into consideration, immediately a alarm will come that some so and so signals has not been measured, so and so system has not been tested properly. So then immediately we have to see, immediately that is an alarming situation where the vehicle has to be inspected. So that is reason why the most crucial components, everything is lying in the battery pack itself. So I hope this is clear, because if you compare with this, you could able to see. Once again, I'll just tell you for our clarity purpose. There will be a master BMS, and this master BMS is communicated to the slave BMS through some sort of communication protocol. So there are so many protocols: CAN bus, SPI, I2C, different kind of communication protocols. It is preferably going through the CAN bus protocol. So these slave BMS are also interconnected with each other. So now this slave BMS is actually in connection with the complete cell module. So the information from the cell or modules is going to the slave BMS, and the slave BMS is going to communicate to the master BMS. So the master BMS have all the operations of checking. This master BMS will check the entire operation. This master BMS has to check entire operation of the circuit. It has to check the safety. It has to check any hazards, faults. It has to check any other vehicle sensor conditioning. After checking all these things, then it will allow the slave BMS to charge the current. So the architecture of the slave BMS is something like this, and this slave BMS will take the information from each cell, and then it will try to control, and it will report to the master BMS. Also, this slave BMS is connected to other slave BMS. In case if the master BMS fails, still the slave BMS will try to continue to be in action. So the other parameter important to be considered is each and every sensor has to be isolated sensor. It should not be non-isolated sensor. When we go for non-isolated sensor, yes, for the battery pack, it may be non-isolated sensor, but whenever you are taking other measurements from the other slaves, it should be isolated. So whenever you are not using isolated, then what will happen? This low side and this low side may be in a common, and then a circulating information may flow that will leads to mal information feedback. So that is the reason why we have to go for isolated current sensors at the master and the slave BMS architecture whenever you are measuring from the outside informations. So in the master BMS software architecture, there are these layers will be there. One is application layer, system software layer, and the hardware layer. In the application layer, all the BMS control strategies will be defined. In the system software layer, all our state machine algorithms will be designed. In the hardware layer, all this CAN, SCI, EPROM, all the input modules will be given information in this one. So till now, any questions are there in these BMS architectures? Is that clear?
Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So now I'll go to the BMS functions. Till now we have seen the architecture. Now we'll little deep into the functions of the battery management system. So the important functions of the BMS is monitoring and checking our protection against the hazards, charge and discharge, estimation, and the management of the data. Now we will check one by one very clearly. In the monitoring, what are the things to be monitored? So battery pack voltage we have to monitor, battery pack current also we have to monitor, and cell voltage, cell temperature, and we have to check for isolation under the interlocks. In the protection against hazards, we have
Professor,
to see
one question. When you say the pack voltage, it is actually the summation of the cell voltages, or how is it?
the module. Like 6 or 8 cells or 10
Mm-hmm.
cells will be combined. That is
Mm-hmm.
called as a pack or a module.
Basically, what I'm asking is like, when we say that, we are monitoring individual cell voltages, the pack voltage is merely a calculation. We'll not separately measure the pack voltage, correct?
Huh.
Okay.
Yes. But sometimes what happens is I mean, this is again a realistic experimentation value that we have seen. If we measure each and cell voltage, obviously we'll come to know what is the actual complete voltage of the battery pack. But due to presence of the resistance or the connections, the pack voltage is little different from the individual cell voltage. It may be slightly 0.1 or 0.2 volts will be slightly higher. So that is reason why we have to precisely measure each and every pack and the cell voltage, and we have to see the delta. In case of any resistance that is accumulated between the contacts, again those contacts has to be replaced. Some extra precaution action we have to take against that. Because even if some moisture is there, that moisture leads to resistance, moisture leads to that rust leads to increase in the resistance. That's how we will check the pack voltage also there.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Now, so the second thing is the protection against hazards. In the protection against hazards, we have to check what are the limits and predict the hazardous events and respond to the hazardous events. So these are all actually we have mentioned in that MATLAB file. In the limits, we'll just check the fault criteria and then what are the safe states. In the hazards, we'll just check for the internal to the pack and external to the pack. So in first external to the pack, we'll check what is the over voltage, under voltage, over current, short circuited, and status of the high voltage connectors. In the internal, similar thing, cell voltage, cell over voltage, cell under voltage, cell over current, and shell circuit, short circuit, and cell that the temperature is high or low. And once this any sort of hazards are occurred, then we have to respond. That we have to go for a fault tolerance. What is the time that we need to tolerate that fault? And we have to manage the cooling, we have to manage the current, we have to manage the contactor operation, and we have to inform all this information to the external communication. So these are the important parameters that we have to be checked when in order to protect the complete EV battery system. Now, other thing we have to check is what is the charge and discharge state. So in the charge and discharge state, we have to check that what is the control path, and we have to perform the energy management as well as balancing. In the current control path, whether the current is directly going or it is going through the contactor control, and we have to check the pre-charge sequence. And
so one question. So now, like in the previous slide, so it is checking for all the hazardous things, right, of the battery. So now, what is the fail-safe mechanism which is already induced, because it cannot suddenly stop the car also. Let us say if the car is running, right? If something is going wrong in the battery. So how do they control now in terms of like the inertia of the vehicle as well as the battery? So somewhere that sync has to be there, right? So it has to come to a halt, means it cannot suddenly stop. So how do they control this?
But apparently what is happening is the electrical vehicles are getting stopped suddenly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll share one of my practical example. We are running a fleet, electric vehicle fleet in the GMR airport using Mahindra e-Veritos. And till 2.5 years of time, this was working very fine. But what is happening when we are seeing in nowadays regular events like we are observing, the vehicle is getting stopped in the middle, showing a drive fault.
Okay.
And then there is a remedy also for that. This drive fault, it is indicating this either some of the cells are getting overheated, cells are got deep discharge state. This drive fault, we are right now doing hard reset. How are we doing is we are removing the auxiliary battery connections, and then we are connecting the auxiliary battery connections.
Okay, it resets the whole thing. Okay.
It's reset the whole thing. So whenever the drive fault is there, it is the time to show it to the again a service engineer.
Okay. Okay.
So if any unknown person is going at that time, what actually the fleet people are doing is by giving a towing machine, they are towing it to the service center. But if any known person is there, they are immediately resetting with the help of auxiliary battery and taking it to the service center.
Okay, so but always that factor of risk is always high. Suddenly stopping or resetting it and then waiting till the repair happens. Okay, risk is high.
That is the biggest drawback. Even people are not immediately buying the EVs. They are trying to settle down and checking why it is happening like that.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So in the charge and discharge cycle, so these are the phenomena that we will check. Now in the energy management also, we'll check that how much amount of the charge we have to control, and we have to set the dynamic, like how much amount of peak charge, peak discharge, all these dynamics also we have to be set. And the state estimation, that as I told, we'll estimate the state of charge, we'll estimate the capacity, we'll estimate the power, we'll estimate the state of health, and charging time and the internal resistance. So impact, if you see, these are all parameters we are actually not measuring except this charging time. Rest all parameters we are estimating. Even the charging time also internally we are calculating and estimating. All other parameters are estimating. So the precise algorithms has to be used in estimating each and every parameters. That is most important. And the data can be managed by using internal communication using CAN or SPI, external communication similarly CAN or SPI, and we are logging the data, and we are also sending the data to remote host that what is the information that is being on the vehicle. So some of the devices also come, that is called OBD, onboard devices. Those devices are logging the, especially in electric vehicles, they are connecting to the CAN terminals, and they are logging the data of SOC of the battery, and regeneration happens in the battery, and the speed of the battery. So all this information also they can be extracted by using these OBD devices. So
Hello, Professor. One question here.
yeah.
You mentioned the experiments what you had with the eVerito in the GMR airport. Tesla or the companies, developed companies have been with the e-vehicles since quite some time. So they also would have gone through similar experiences on the fields, you would estimate?
In fact, I don't have idea about because we have not physically, and I have not heard about such kind of incident in Tesla. Since these vehicles are with us, so we could know.
Okay,
Those I
because
was
if
not aware actually.
yeah, because I've also not heard too many of these kind of instances. So is there a very different technology that we are employing versus the other car companies like a Tesla or somebody else?
I'm not sure exactly, but that has to be checked. But from the technical point of view, I could tell that the Tesla is using very high voltage battery packs. Even if the some of the if they have used some sort of electronic, bypass circuits, wherever that fault is occurred, they can bypass that particular cell or pack. Then they can do the rest of operation if the technology is so much good. But I'm not sure exactly how these cases I have not heard in Tesla kind of vehicles.
Okay, okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just investigate. Thanks for this question. Yeah. So this architecture we have seen. So basically, again, as a summary, so the architecture is having application layer, software layer, and this flash handler. So in the application layer, we will check that cell, module, pack monitoring, current measurement, isolation measurement, vehicle communication, CAN or SPI, and we'll estimate that SOC estimation, SOH estimation, error handling, self diagnostics, and contactor control, high voltage interlinks control, cell balancing, and power estimation. So all this will be done in the application layer where you can see in your dashboard. And this is the interface that exists between the software and the application. And the main software is having this microcontroller unit, and it is having also some sort of operating system or real-time operating systems, bootloaders, and it is having so many other peripherals such as general purpose input output pins, analog to digital converter pins, PWM pins, pulse width modulated pins, CAN bus, SPI, and the memory, and fault handling managers and memory managers. All these things will be there in the flash handler. This is there in the master BMS architecture entirely. This is the information that you can able to see. In the algorithmic layer, you can see that though we have already discussed, just for our clarity purpose, I'll just tell you. In the input, we'll take the cell status, current sensing, and analog input, PWM input, CAN input. All the information will be taken to our BMS algorithm. From the BMS algorithm, we'll give the output, whether how much amount of whether the current has to be charged or not, what is the status of the cell commands, and what is the control of the CAN. So these informations all will be executed inside the algorithm, and then it will report to the output side. So these things we have already discussed, like all these estimations will be done. After that only the information will be going to the output layer. So this SOC estimation can be done in different ways. One is Coulomb count method. It is very easy. Like it is depends upon how much amount of, it is like integration. So how much amount of electron charge that is happening, that you can estimate. But it is a very direct method, and it is not accurate method, because whenever any surge is there, that estimation will lose the implementation there. And open circuit voltage method, this is also again, as I told, we are trying to measure that state of charge by taking the open circuit voltage. This open circuit voltage versus the charge will be accurate if you consider both the charge and discharge cycle. But what happens is when you are trying to charge and discharge, you have to open the circuit. So it is actually, when it is at running, it is really difficult to open the circuit. It is only possible when you are not charging or when you are not discharging. So this method, how they are doing is, before charging, after charging, they are considering. Based on that, they are telling, okay, this is the SOC. Again, this is inaccurate method. One more method that they are using, based on completely based on software, that is Kalman filter approach, and it is considered to be accurate method if you, for the type of the battery pack that you are using, but it really requires a lot of efforts, in the control systems to make it so much accurate. Still, this is also like not 100% accurate. Even then, it is differ from the pack to pack, cell to cell, manufacturer to manufacturer. Okay, so now this state of charge in the Coulomb counting and voltage translation method is happening somewhere like this. So there is a particular IC will be there. For this IC, we'll take cell voltage, temperature, pack current, and all this real-time clock state of estimation and this cell characterization. We'll give it to one microcontroller. It will estimate and will show you that what is the pack SOC and cell SOC as the output. Similarly, the state of health.
One question, please, if you don't mind. So,
Yeah, please,
what is the
please.
difference between this pack SOC display and cell SOC for storage?
Yeah, this pack is a complete battery pack, say 6 or 8 cells, considered to be one pack. That pack SOC, state of charge, and cell, each and individual cell state of charge we are able to check, because generally what happens, once again here one more important observation. Thanks for this question. In the each cell voltage, say for example I have 6 cells, each cell has having SOC of say 80%, 80%, 80%, 70% and 80%. Say I have 5 cells, 5 cells has a SOC of 80, 80, 80, 70 and 80. One is only 70. Now the pack SOC is not the average of the cell SOC. Pack SOC is completely different than the cell SOC. So that is what we meant to see here. Like we have to consider the complete pack state of charge condition and the cell state of charge condition. And then only we have to act.
Professor, this pack SOC, maybe a silly question, but is this like, which will show as to how much charge is remaining to the driver, or what is it? I did not get that.
Okay. Again, there is a little confusion. I think we had to be clarified here. See, so I'm telling at this level. So this is a module, or I can say it's a pack. Okay, so in this one, this information will not be shown to the on the dashboard. On the dashboard, the complete battery. Maybe my terminal is a little wrong. I have to call it as a module. Pack is, your assumption is correct. Pack is complete system is considered to be one pack. So this one is one module. This module information only we are able to check. So each cell SOC and this module SOC. And this SOC we are communicating to our main system, and the main system will be showing the complete pack SOC. So I little misuse the term. This should be used as a module. Here also it should be module. Here also it should be module SOC for display.
Okay.
So is that clear?
But okay, yeah. But in sense this whatever, let's say you start charging and your battery is now 100% charged, and then you go on for a ride, and then it keeps on decreasing. So that is not SOC then.
It is not that SOC. This is at module level SOC.
No, that I understood. But then whatever is displayed to the driver as the like the current charge, is that also an SOC or not?
It is the SOC. It is the combined SOC of the all the modules.
Okay, fine.
It is not the individual, but all the modules combined one particular SOC.
Yeah, and that is, you said that pack SOC for display. And what is this second one for storage means?
This each cell SOC will write into the again microcontroller to calculate for our main complete battery pack SOC.
So that means that storage SOC is an input for the display SOC.
For
Is
the
it not?
displays. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so can I move?
Yeah, thank you.
Professor, one more question for more clarification.
Yes,
we only see the pack SOC in the display, isn't it?
Yes, we will see the pack SOC in the dashboard display.
Yeah, and module SOC is
module SOC, all information will be there. I mean, like we can tap all the information by plugging into one special software. Maybe even you might have there in your center. When we have our CAN bus communication with some specific software, if you plug into our vehicle, we could able to see complete diagnostics of our vehicle. Especially complete information of the modules will be shown there. Complete cell information also will be shown there. You can check completely how the battery pack is health condition basically.
Okay. That will be not always displayed for a driver. All modules.
No, that will be nowhere. It will be helpful for the consumer. Okay. So that will be for only the engineers who will look into that particular thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the state of health. In the state of health, will again the battery aging effect and the cycle aging effect. So the battery aging is done calculation by the calendar aging. So the amount of energy is a function of the time, SOC, and the temperature. And whereas cell is cycle aging is depend on function of the time, SOC, depth of discharge, charge discharge, and the number of cycles that is taking place. So these are the just two simple formulas that we will be using while calculating the state of health of the battery.
But what is the physical sense of these two different aging? Because the calendar aging will also depend on my DOD. If the DOD is too low, it goes too low, it will affect my calendar aging. I mean, just trying to understand in a physical sense. Can you help us with that?
Yeah. Yes, because these two anyway are trying to relate to the state of health. So one is our calendar aging, that is just with respect to the state of charge, temperature, and the time. Okay. So whereas cycle aging, because we are talking about how many number of cycles that is charging and discharging, that is depends upon the charge discharge and the number of cycles. When you are going for charge discharge, obviously the depth of discharge is coming to picture. Here we are not considering the charge discharge. We are just kept as it is in the ideal condition. So let us take in the physical essence like this. So I have taken one particular battery pack and I kept as it is. And I have taken the battery pack at X SOC and it is kept as it is in the ideal condition. Now the same battery pack I have taken and I am charging and discharging with a number of cycles. When I'm charging and discharging, obviously the depth of discharge also will come into picture. Whereas in calendar aging, I'm not charging anything. So I'm not discharging anything. So the depth of discharge will not affect much here.
So means it's a kind of a self-discharge process.
Self-discharge process. Calendar aging is self-discharge. Cycle aging is externally we are charging and discharging.
Okay.
So these are the just simple parameters. Like if we assume that one particular battery pack we have brought, and it is at 80% SOC, and I kept for 30 days of time at X temperature. Now after 30 days of time, how much amount of charge is left out there? That is what it is telling the calendar aging, and how much amount of chemical reaction that has taken place. And in the cycle aging is since we are trying to charge the cycle as well as we are trying to discharge it. Whenever we try to charge and discharge, the chemical reaction will be much more rapid than it is at stagnant. So due to which the depth of discharge will go on increasing with the number of cycles. So that is reason why basically our EV manufacturers will give, like as an example I'm telling, 3 years warranty or 30,000 kilometers, whichever is the first. So I'm telling an example point of view. So like 30,000 kilometers, if we go in 1 year, the complete battery pack depth of discharge will be higher, and the battery pack will be no more in a condition to give as best as it's efficient earlier. Or if you don't use battery pack quite long time and if you kept it idle, it will also be equivalent. So I hope this is clear.
But what is the calculation that we do here, as in, like, what is the function, the way that we calculate this aging and all that?
Oh, you need the formula for it. So I have not brought it here. I can share it. I can supplement that that article where we are exactly calculating how the calendar aging affect the battery states and how the cycle aging is affect to the battery state. Basically, it will be, I think we have seen somewhere in a graph. I can share it. I can share it.
Mhm, mhm.
Maybe I'll supplement this information. So can I move ahead?
What's the exact difference between these two, sir?
Huh. Exact difference is here the chemical reaction will be slower in the calendar aging, whereas in the cycle aging the chemical reaction will be fast. This is the basic difference, because you are trying to charge and you are trying to discharge. So it is a rapid action that you are taking place.
Mhm.
Whereas calendar aging, you are not charging, or it is having a self discharge at a specific rate.
Okay.
So ultimately both will lead to the health of the battery.
Okay.
So that is even one of the reason, like in electric vehicles, at least in Mahindra Electric concern, that when any X person is booking the vehicle, then immediately there will be a gap of 30 days where the battery pack will be designed in that particular period of time, so that the calendar aging will not happen. Is
Okay,
that
sir.
clear?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the state of power we have already seen the how much amount of power it will give continuously at different rates. So this we have seen already, and the safety action that we have already seen. What is the level 0? I mean, these are the different safety actions that we have to take. If it is level 0, that is something like if any one of the cell in the battery pack is gone, that's okay. And in any one of the module is somewhere a little faulty. So like this, we have some different levels. So level 0, level 1, in level 2, no operation next time. In the level 3, it will go into derate state. In the level 4, it will be emergency cutoff. So as per our experiences, after 2 to 2.5 years, it is automatically directly going to the emergency cutoffs. So the vehicle is getting into standstill mode. So this is about this battery management system, and then I think I'll go for this charging EV charging infrastructure. maybe taking 5 minutes break.